So we've been spending some time working with creating dog objects from our dog class, thinking about the fact that the dog class is our prototype or our blueprint, however you want to think about that, or boilerplate that we create all of our dogs from. And so anything that we think all of our dogs, properties that all of our dogs should have, like doggy name and doggy weight, we put those properties in our constructor. And so at the time that we created a new instance or a new dog object, we sent our constructor the dog's, that individual dog's name and that individual dog's weight. And then at the end of the last video, we printed out that data so we could see things were actually working. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is point out the fact that we've got some repetitive code here, and that is that we're printing this. It seems kind of repetitive. The only thing we're changing on each of these is the dog 2 or the dog 1. So what we're going to do then is we're going to create a method in our dog class. And the idea here is, since all of our dogs come from this blueprint, if they share the same method, I should be able to just put the method inside of my class, and then all the dogs will get that method. I don't really understand what you're saying. All right, well, let's give it a whirl and see if an example helps. So now I'm going to create a method called display dog info. I'm going to give it some space just for clarity. And this is a method just like we've seen before. We're going to put in, by agreement, we're going to put in this word self. And again, let me spell this, dog info. Self simply means that I'm going to get sent, this method is going to get sent a unique instance of a dog, or a unique object, or a unique dog. And so whatever that unique dog is, this method should know that dog's name or that dog's weight. In other words, let's see, I'm not going to receive any more data. I think self is all I need. And I'm going to take these print statements that we had down here and copy and paste them, or cut and paste them into this method. And then I shouldn't have to print twice. Okay, so what we've done here, where we printed out the doggy's name and the doggy weight, we're doing the same thing, except for if we want to call display, oh, I guess it's supposed to be dog info. We don't want to display dog 1 info. We want to display the dog that got sent into, in other words, self. So what I'm going to do here is type in self. In other words, if dog 1, let me call the method so we can talk about it. So I'm going to do dog 1, and now I'm going to put the dot and the name of the method that I want to run. So I want to run the method that is part of this prototype or this blueprint or this dog class. I automatically get to use it because I am created from that class. So therefore I also have access to this method. So I'm going to display dog info. And I don't have to send it anything because I'm told that automatically when I create methods inside of a class, I put the word self in there, and automatically dog 1 is going to be sent in here, so I don't have to worry about it. And so now what should happen is when we run display dog info, dog 1 is automatically being sent in. So this self means dog 1. And by replacing dog 1 here, what I can say instead is take self, so that it could be dog 2. It could be any dog I send in here is going to be, is the dog that I'm referring to. In other words, let's go ahead and run this, and I'll show you an example to try and better explain what that's doing. So let's see if this in fact works. So what is the dog's name? We're running this code right here. This dog's name is Fluffy, and now he's 20 pounds. Okay, and so when display info ran, the dog 1 is the value that got sent into self. So this was synonymous with saying dog 1 dot doggy name, but instead we use self. So if we had done the same thing for dog 2, in other words, if I had called dog 2, display dog info, this time instead of dog, oops, I have to put dog 2. This time instead of, well, dog 2 is going to be who is being referred to as self. So then this would be synonymous with saying dog 2 dot doggy name. Dog 2, you get the idea? So if I put self now, the first time we display info, it's going to display the dog 1's info. The second time it's going to display the dog 2 info. So let's run that and see if that works. So Fluffy, and Fluffy is still, oh, that's really gaining weight. Okay. And then you can see that the second time it ran, we saw Goldie. Just for demonstration, and I hope this helps explain this self thing. Instead of doing this, I'm going to do the same thing except in a little bit different way. When we call a method name as part of our class, another way you can call it is if you call it by the class name, and then we put the dot, and then we put display the name of the method, which is display dog info. We can do that, but what we're really doing is we're sending it a particular dog. So these two statements are really doing the same thing. We're calling the dog class, we're calling this method, and the dog2 instance or the dog2 object is being sent. So this is really what's happening behind the scenes when we run this piece of code, this statement. So instead of doing it this way, we're calling the dog itself, the object itself, and then the method that goes around it. So now self says, I know who I am dog 2, and therefore I know my dog's name and my doggy weight. If I'm dog 1, self says, who am I that called this method? Well, I'm dog 1 that called this method, and therefore self refers to dog 1, and therefore it knows to print its dog's 1's name and weight. So if you want to think about self as who is it that is currently using me, who is it that is currently calling me, that's the object that is going to be used to print out the doggy name and the doggy weight. So either those will work, but I'm using this as a demonstration if this helps clarify why we have to put self here and that we need to catch it and what it refers to. It refers to the individual dog or the individual object or the unique object that called this method, and therefore I know what my name is and what appropriate weight to write.